Hello, and welcome to Millennials Gone Circular, the podcast helping make circularity a reality. I'm your co host, Caitlin Sockwell, a self proclaimed Austro-American currently based in the Netherlands. Also joining me are my fabulous co hosts, Angelica Barrios, who is our sustainability science queen, and Saeed Fado, the calm, curious, and comedic one of the group. Joining our trio today is the ever lovely Fernanda Drumond, head of collective action and disaster management at the H&M Foundation. She's talking to us today about the idea of inclusive circularity with a focus on the textile sector. We'll hear about one of their case studies and chat through some inspiring examples of different inclusive circularity projects that have or are happening at the moment. Let's listen in.
Hey everybody, Said here. I hope that wherever you are doing and wherever you are, you're doing well. Welcome to Millennials Gone Circular podcast. This is episode 8 and I'm excited about it. As always, I'm joined here by my two good friends and co-hosts, Angelica and Caitlin. I'm curious to ask you first, how do you feel about hitting episode 8?
So good. I can't believe we've done 8 full episodes. I can't we love each other that much to stick with it. And well, 8's just the beginning. We'll be talk to me when we do 108. We'll see where we're feeling.
Yeah, true. We will do a party or like a huge event on the 100 episode. But for now, I'm also very happy. I am very proud of our consistency. I'm also very happy of the guests that we have. And yeah, it has been a great experience.
Yeah, so we're basically and officially like a series now. We
Yeah.
can announce that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So today is a special. We have a special guest and special topic, but all around circularity as always. So I'd like to welcome Fernanda Drumond to the Millennials Gone Circular podcast. Fernanda, welcome, and happy to have you with us. I'm curious what's on your mind as we start this conversation.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. Everybody, hello. I'm Fernanda Drumond, head of collective action at the H&M Foundation. And if you're curious about what's in my mind right now, like Saeed is, it's, I guess, a lot of excitement. I just love talking to people, and I am excited about talking to these incredibly smart and funny people here in front of me right now.
Oh.
Oh,
Amazing.
stop. You make me blush.
Thank you so much, Fernanda. We are more excited and more honored to have you here.
Yes, indeed. So actually, we'll start with you, Fernanda. I think our listeners would like to get to know you. So maybe first question is, who is Fernanda? What's your story? And how did you get into circular economy field?
Great question. So I'm Fernanda, and this accent you hear is because I'm from Brazil, but I have also lived in India, I've lived in Nepal, I've lived a bit in the US. So I think my accent is a bit of a mixture. So good luck understanding me.
I can relate a little bit.
Right? And how did I come to work with sustainability and circularity? What a good question. As I said, I grew up in Brazil, right? And I come from a high-income family. I didn't know it back then. I thought I was middle class, right? And my father comes from very humble background. He actually comes from the rural area. His family was very, very poor, who migrated into the city to try to find some jobs. And he actually took like 3 years to finally be accepted into a university. And back then, the options that people found for men were like, oh, you got to be a doctor or an engineer or something like this, right? And my father went into medicine. And he has always been so caring about people in need, both in his work, but also, in everyday life. When we are at restaurants, for example, sitting outside, he was always the one, giving a little bit of money to the people who come and asking for some help. So I think I learned with him how to be I didn't know the word then, but, how to have empathy for people who are not living in the same conditions as myself. And it slowly just grew on me that I wanted to help other people to have the same opportunities that I had in life. So I came into sustainability mostly with this social impact lens on how can I help to reduce poverty in the world. And then slowly I got to know that there is so much to be done in terms of sustainability to help people, to help economies, not actually to help people, for people to lift themselves out of poverty, right? So in the end, I now landed into circular economy. And I think it's a fantastic solution. It's not the only solution that we need in the world, but it is definitely a fantastic solution. And bridging already into circularity and the need for my passion for social impact, it's precisely the sweet spot of inclusive circularity that I love. So I would love to tell you more about that later today.
Yeah. And in terms of background and studies, what is it you studied actually, for our listeners who are curious about your academic journey?
It's a funny story. So when I was, how old was I? 13 years old, I don't know. This band called U2 came to play in Brazil, in São Paulo. So I traveled to São Paulo to watch them play, and Bono was there being the activist that he is, right? And they put the Declaration of Universal Human Rights on the screen, and they talk a bit about it. And I still remember that moment, how I was like, oh my God, I want to work with this. I want to work for the UN. And I thought that working for the United Nations was the way to save the planet, So I actually studied international relations. That's my bachelor's degree in international relations, because I wanted to have, the skills that are needed to work for the UN. And then as time passed, I started working in the private sector. I had several different jobs, of course. I worked at the India Brazil Chamber of Commerce, promoting businesses between India and Brazil, and etc. And then I found out that to work for the UN and to pursue my job, and as I talked to so many different networks, I would have to do a master's. So I actually came to Sweden to do a master's in development studies, just so I would have the diploma to work for the UN. And then as I started studying more development studies and getting to know more about the whole world of, philanthropy and also development work and aid and the colonization, decolonization, post-colonialism and all of that, I realized that the private sector has a huge role to play in the transformation that is needed towards sustainability. And that's kind of how I ended up at the H&M Foundation. It was a bit of this whole background of wanting, to change the world, and the realization that it's not the UN who is going to do it, it's the private sector. And that's how I ended up here.
Wow. Well, you're putting that international relations degree to use even just being here. So we're international. We're having relations. So there you go. But what
no, definitely. I just wanted to add, Fernanda, I totally relate, and also what Caitlin just said, here
because then you think back and go,
I was trying to understand this background part at the beginning, because I wouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't have done that,
and it just kind of, you work backwards.
And I think it's super important to understand
all these sliding door moments. So
the way that each person understands the future and how to manage current
Fascinating.
resources to provide for future
Yeah,
generations.
interesting
I
to
think
see
that's
how
very,
also
very, very
our
based on our belief
upbringing and
systems.
like
And that is
with our
created
parents,
by the
how
environment where we are
this
like born
yeah
and raised. So
environment
yeah,
and
that's why
where
for
we
us
grew
in
up
the
and
in
people we
Millennials on
interact with
Circular is
can
so
shape
important. So it
our
was so
future.
interesting also to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
so glad to hear because I see it as well. I mean, I told you the story about my belief system relating back to my upbringing in Brazil. But now, after moving to Sweden, I see that people have maybe a similar belief system, but they have a different upbringing. But then we also have different references. And in the end, we might end up on the same values, or we might end up learning something completely new that you hadn't thought about, right? So that's why it's so cool to have channels like yours here, these podcasts, to really get different perspectives and learn about other people's way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of our goals with the podcast is to have at least a guest from each country. So now we have Brazil and Sweden.
Yeah, true.
And
I think you're our first. Oh no, I lie. I was going to say you're our first from South America, but that would be sorry, Angelica. That's not true.
No, I mean, but she will be the first Brazilian, which is very interesting because now we cover
Yes.
2 Latin American
Yeah.
countries so far. That's very good also. Yeah, and I think every Latin American country is very unique in their own way. Like I think Brazil should be like a full continent by itself. It's huge, and it has so much diversity. So it's like, yeah, it's an entire world actually just there, I guess.
yeah. So if we go now to where you are and at H&M Foundation, what is it that you do there? And maybe also you can tell us more about H&M Foundation.
Sure, glad to talk about that. So here at the H&M Foundation, I am head of collective action. And the H&M Foundation is actually a family philanthropy and not a corporate foundation. And that means that we are actually separate from the H&M group. We were founded by the Stefan Pechon family, who are the main owners of the H&M group, but they donated to us so we can support the whole textile industry to reduce half its greenhouse gas emissions every decade until 2050, while promoting a just transition for people and the planet. In shorter words, helping the textile industry to decarbonize through a just transition. And that's what we do here. And as for my specific role in this, is pretty much doing whatever I can to get industry stakeholders, community actors, governments, academia, more stakeholders from the private sector to join hands to do this transformation in the industry together. Because the textile industry, just like many other sectors, needs to go through a big transformation in order to become circular, in order to become sustainable, in order to become net zero, right? It's not something that can happen with one stakeholder alone, one government alone, one, player out there. It's something that is going to require everybody to be working together. So this is what I am doing at the H&M Foundation, collective action. I'm getting all these stakeholders together to drive the needle together.
I love every part of that. Collective action, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. We can't do this individually. We all have to be working together. But one of the things, or one of the terms that you mentioned was a just transition. And we haven't, I think we will do an episode in the future about sustainable development, what that means and what that includes, which includes a just transition. But do you mind just expanding on what just transition is, just for our listeners?
Oh my God, just transition is my passion. So I can talk to you about just transition for like hours, but being short.
I mean, for us, it's not a problem.
I see. So it's like this. The world we live in right now needs to become a low carbon economy, right? Needs to become, let's say, net zero. And the scientists are suggesting that this should happen by 2050, right? So that we stay below 1.5 degrees compared to pre-industrial levels. Anyway, so this transition to a low carbon economy is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but we're not gonna get there. We're not gonna get to a thriving planet if we concentrate only on reducing carbon emissions. This has to be done, this transition has to be done with the inclusion of people along the way. People and also other considerations for the environment as well. So a just transition is a set of principles and practices that guarantees that people are included, and people here, it's everyone, especially vulnerable communities that are more affected, right, by these transitions. So it's to guarantee that people are included along the way.
Yeah.
And
I
what
think
does
a really
that
great,
mean?
yeah. I was just going to say a great
clarify.
example. Yeah.
Sure. I can give an example, but I'll just clarify a little bit more what it means. What does it mean to include people? It means to make sure that people who are affected by a transition, I'll give you an example. Let's say that there is, in the UK, for instance, there's a transition from producing energy out of coal, and now they are using green energy, right? So renewable energy. How about the people then that were working in the coal industry? What's going to happen with them? That's what they have done their entire lives, or it's a huge amount of people who would then been laid off. So how can we guarantee a just transition for them? So first of all, we need to talk to them and include them in this transition and ask, what is it that are your challenges? What can we do to provide you new jobs? How can we support you with your own needs?
Yes.
Second, they need to have agency to influence the decisions that affect their life. They need to have resources and agency to the ability to shape their lives the way they want, and not just for the governments to decide stuff for them. And third, there needs to be accountability, which is recognizing the responsibility of each actor for promoting this just transition. The government has to do their part, the private sector has to do their part, the communities have to do their part, the private sector has to be responsible for what they cause as well. So it's these three key elements of a just transition for people are these: inclusion, agency, and accountability. And of course, we can't forget the other aspects regarding the environment, because a just transition has to be good for people, but also for the environment. As we move towards, low carbon, we have to remember that, fine, we're not going to emit so much carbon dioxide anymore, but we have to make sure that all the other ecosystems are thriving as well. So this is what is needed for the world to reach, a happy, thriving system by 2050, basically.
Wow, that's so interesting. I was thinking about two of the ones you mentioned, 2 out of 3. The agency, for example, something that also, like in different countries, I have analyzed about agency. Like agency in some way for me, maybe you will correct me if I'm wrong, but agency for me also means like a higher level of consciousness. Like you are aware of yourself and your surroundings, and then you can take decisions based on that. But maybe in many countries you can see that this agency is affected by the mere like survival needs. I mean, how can they even think about being more conscious, like you just said about like, no, yeah, don't go into the coal business because you need to do the transition to green. If they were just focused on all their minds and all their life were just focused on pure survival, right? So I think that for me has been very interesting, because we all see agency based on our consciousness level. And then it comes, and then for me, it's connected to accountability. On the moment that we have like a higher level of awareness of ourselves and the environment, we can be accountable for our actions. And then it's connected. Then like, okay, now I'm aware of everything, or like at least when it concerns to myself and my environment, then I can be accountable of, okay, this is maybe not my fault now, but it's my responsibility from now on to contribute, right? So that was more or less what I was thinking. And I think it's so interesting.
Fantastic. I love it. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what Just Transition is about as well, is that let's make sure people have the basic needs covered in terms of water, sanitation, basic human rights, universal human rights, so that they don't have to be worrying about the survival, so that the agency is enhanced to pursue their dreams and live thriving lives and take responsibility for their actions as well, in the way that you're saying, right? So I agree completely with you. Lovely perspective.
Thank you.
And
No,
I,
thanks
I,
so
s- I see this now as a double challenge, because not only cutting emissions, but also bringing people along and onboard them and have a same level of start. Especially like in the textile sector, from the GAP report, we see that the textile circularity is only 0.3%. That is like not circular. It's rather linear, very linear, right?
much.
So I'm curious, Fernanda, to learn from you. What do you think? What are the key root problems that are not allowing to achieve a higher rate of circularity in the textile sector?
Oh, what a good question. As you pointed out correctly, the textile industry is only 0.3% circular right now. Can we even say that it's circular? It's not. It's very linear, right? That's a stats from the Textiles Circularity Gap report, indeed. And what it's showing, it's something, what these statistics are showing is that it's what's very obvious actually for those who work with textiles in general, which is that circularity right now in the textile industry doesn't exist, and it's a huge challenge to make it happen. And it doesn't mean that it's so challenging that we shouldn't make it. No, it's so challenging that we need to understand what is behind all these challenges. I will give you a few examples to show you how challenging this system is, because to make the textile industry circular, we are going to need I'm going to call it a revolution. It's a whole transformation of the whole system. And that's why it's so hard, Said. That's why it's so challenging to get there. But let's start from the very beginning. The companies who are promoting circularity, both brands and retailers, they are doing a big push for circularity, right? Which is great. And the consumers are asking for more of that as well. Recycled polyester, recycled cotton. To have that recycled clothes, you need to have a constant and reliable income of used clothes, used textiles, in order to be able to recycle them. But how do we get this constant and reliable income of textiles every month to be recycled? Because if you're doing with virgin material that you just created a new cotton, for example, it's easy. You go to the farmers, get the cotton, transform into yarns, transform it into fabric that then becomes pieces of fabric that then are sealed together, and it becomes a t-shirt. But to do that with recycled material, you need to make sure that you always have recycled material coming at the same every time that you need to produce new clothes, and it needs to be a constant income. How do you get that to happen if everyone is just throwing away their clothes everywhere and without a proper system for getting the clothes back together to the industry? Right now, it's very fragmented, the place, the way that the textiles have for going back to the industry. So that's challenge number one, making sure that the discarded clothes come back to the industry to be recycled. Challenge number two is the companies who are doing the recycling of the clothes. Do they even have right now the capacity to do all of this recycling so that all of the clothes produced come from recycled content? Whew, that's very difficult. It's a huge amount of clothes that need to be recycled in order to meet the demand of the consumers, because we in the world buy a lot of clothes, basically. Challenge number 3, recycling these garments is not so easy because they come with a mix of materials that then need to be separated for these materials to be recycled and become new garments in a good quality. So if you want to recycle this, downcycle it into another product, it's not that complicated. But if you want this to become another t-shirt that it has equal quality to be resold again by retailers and etc., then it's really hard. You need to understand the composition, you need to separate the material, you need to find probably chemical recycling technologies to make this recycling, to make new clothes that are of good quality as well. So it's a bunch of challenges to make this happen. I'm just trying to summarize them here. But this is exactly the kind of challenges that the industry is facing for creating circularity.
Yeah, it looks for me, it's already like similar to other sectors. It's not only specific to textile. And for the first challenge, I see like a collection and reverse logistics issue or like challenge. And it's also common with other products like maybe electronic waste, for instance. We have all like old end of waste or like unused phones at home in the drawers, and they are not collected, although we have like huge value in those electronics, and the same with textile. And this also, I think, is linked to consumer behavior and awareness. Do you see that plays a role, especially like if you have like, we have the fast fashion trend, and also then not like bringing back unused clothes? Is this something that you see as like 50% of the challenge, or not really?
Of course, this is definitely, the consumer behavior is definitely a big part of the challenge, of course. But even for the consumers who want to participate in a circular economy, who want to promote a more circular economy, sometimes they don't even know how to. There is no infrastructure to help them to get their own garments to be recycled, right? So, for example, a lot of consumers, they donate their clothes to secondhand shops, and they think, great, so now people are going to resell this shirt, and that problem is done. They're going to reuse my t-shirt, they're going to resell my t-shirt, and that's great. And that's great from like a first step. But after that, there are many garments who come back to the secondhand shops, or then by then the quality is not so good anymore, or they have holes on them, or they fade in color, they have stains. That doesn't go back to the secondhand shops. That ends up being exported to poorer countries such as Ghana and Chile that we have heard about, right? And it, to be honest, even over there, it ends up being handled by the informal sector, who tries to resell them in secondhand markets, or it just simply straight away goes to the landfills. So most of the clothes today actually end up in landfills, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question, Fernanda, because maybe, do you think that it should be a way at some point of considering the amount of sale, like, or the increasing amount of sale, not like a good thing anymore? Because something that maybe at some point I have seen in terms of sustainability is like maybe also because of economy based or success in how much I increase my sales per month, per year, and try to find new indicators of success when it comes to like financial and business success. That you think will change the dynamics, because now we are not trying to sell more, we are trying to, or incentivize selling more, we are trying to incentivize other things.
No, this is a great question, and that goes right, to the root of, the way we operate. So I think it's definitely very important to start talking about decoupling growth from raw material, for instance, decoupling growth from sales. I think that it's very important to always remember the hierarchy of waste, which is, right, to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So definitely, I do my best to always promote that philosophy: reduce, reuse, recycle for everything that we consume. Actually,
That's so good.
Maybe a funny question in between. When was the last time you did shopping?
Yes, I love this.
No, it's a great question, and I don't mind saying it. So there is a secondhand shop right next to our office here in Stockholm, and I went there about 2 weeks ago to buy a skirt because, and now I'm going to be very vulnerable here and tell you a bit about, personal stuff. But I have recently gained a lot of weight, and I noticed that my pants are getting tight. So I have
Means you're living life. That's what life's about, right?
right? Reaching 40, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So I have basically right now one pair of jeans that I really love and one black pants. And then at that specific day, both of them were dirty. And I was like, I need a skirt. So I went over there and got a black, it ended up being a black dress that I used as a skirt because I put a jacket on top. There you go.
Maybe just a quick, very personal comment. And it's like, I don't know if it happens in your family, Fernanda, but in Latin America, like, especially like Latin moms are very superstitious, right? So my mom is very Catholic. And then in Colombia, I have seen like people, they don't want to buy secondhand items in general, clothes especially, because there's this superstition of like, yeah, but it's someone with bad energy. You said they will transfer you that bad energy. And I never dimension how much that changed the mentality towards like using secondhand things, because people doesn't want to feel the bad energy of something that they don't know before, right? And then when I came to Sweden, and now I've been living 2 years in Sweden, my whole house is like secondhand things. And I haven't feel any spirit or anything. And I'm like, okay, maybe it was my mom thing. I'm not gonna believe on this anymore. And now I buy secondhand clothes,
No
It wasn't
hauntings
like
as yet.
No, not yet. I will let you know, okay? It will be a special episode.
Yeah.
I hear completely. I hear you about the superstitions, yes. But to be honest, I also buy mostly secondhand furniture now, secondhand clothes, shoes, whatever it is, right? And to be honest, I only get good energy out of them. I'm happy.
That's true. I don't
Wow.
know.
It's a cultural thing for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, but it's to consider. Like my mom has never bought a secondhand thing just because she thinks that she could be a bit skeptical about it.
We are full of superstitions in Latin America, I know.
Speaking about secondhand shopping, I find it interesting. And also, I noticed that people are justifying like shopping if they go to secondhand, meaning that they can do more shopping more often. Is this something that you notice? It's like justification, but I mean, you have to always start with reduce as we spoke. And then, I go to the other circular economy principles. But usually people see, if I buy secondhand, okay, it's all right to buy more.
No.
I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me if I see this personally in my group of friends, in my bubble, I don't see that much. But it's definitely working in the textile industry. I have definitely heard of this. But to be honest, I haven't seen any data proving that this happens. I haven't seen any specific company showing data that this is a trend that is happening. So to be honest, I don't know what to answer to this question. I'll just, in my own bubble, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, that's
but I understand if it is. So it's definitely something that the industry needs to investigate deeper.
Yeah. And this also links to the next question about your personality. What drew your personality into the work you do, and also the moment that opened your eyes to the reality of informal waste work and informal sector in general. I think because I feel like this is a shift that happened like even in the middle of what you're doing today.
It's a great question, and I'm very grateful you asked. So I'll get back to what I was saying before about where our clothes end up, right? I was saying that a lot of them go to secondhand shops, a lot of them go to landfills, but a lot of what I was describing is definitely the journey of garments in, for example, the global north, right? In Sweden here, where I've been living for 13 years now. But having lived in India, have lived in Brazil and in Nepal, I think what I saw over there in the journey of a garment was a bit different. And maybe, Angelica, you're going to recognize this a bit. So let's see. So in Brazil, when we're done using our clothes, I don't want to use this anymore, there's a stain or whatever, I usually hand it over to somebody who comes from a poorer background than myself. We donate our clothes. And once the clothes are done being used as well, they are collected by people who usually collect waste for a living. Let's call them waste pickers, right? So they go through material that other people discarded. They collect what they can resell to make money for a living. And, that's what they do as a job. So textiles is one of the things that they collect. A lot of times they use textiles or the pieces of fabric do not have a value for them. So it's a lot of waste pickers who don't collect garments. A lot of them do, a lot of them don't, right? It depends if there's a market for it. And a lot of them collect plastic, a lot of them collect paper, a lot of them collect cans, and so on and so forth. So what we have done in India was we realized that we could perhaps support the waste pickers to have more. I'm talking about the H&M Foundation, okay? We saw an opportunity there to use our philanthropic funds to help the waste pickers to lift themselves out of poverty. And that's because the waste pickers, they have one of the most important jobs in the world. They are the key players of circularity in the world. They are definitely doing already the thing. They've been working on circular economy for decades, centuries even, for a gazillion years, and they go unnoticed, they go unacknowledged. And that's because they are part of the informal sector. You don't see much about their salaries, in the statistics, in the report. So they go unnoticed, but they've been doing this for a very long time. So seeing that, the value that they bring for sustainability and for a circular economy, for instance, we realized that we could perhaps elevate the playing field where they work so that they would have the agency to live thriving lives. So we sent a team of ethnographers to live with the waste pickers for about a month to learn firsthand from them what are the key challenges that they live in their daily lives. And we learned a lot about the depths of poverty in which they live. So we understood, for example, that they are extremely poor. They suffer a lot of harassment and violence from other people. There's a lot of drug abuse, unfortunately. They don't have buyers to all the material that they can collect. Many times they are migrants from other regions in India, for instance, if we're talking about the specific communities in Bengaluru in India, right? So they don't even sometimes have a reliable, like a stable home, right? The communities where they live is not very permanent, let's say. They many times don't have water and sanitation at home. And, sometimes they don't even have an ID to prove that they are who they are. So they are actually a very vulnerable group of people, but who are doing an incredible job for the planet. So this is what we decided to do. We, according to all of these, challenges that they have identified themselves, we decided to tackle all of them at the same time. Instead of choosing just education, just water, just gender, we decided to do it all together using the power of philanthropy that we can bring. And we did that because we want to promote systems change. That's how you bring equity, the level playing field that we were talking about before, right, Angelica? They stop thinking about survival so you can think about the other stuff, right? And that's what we have done. And it's a very, very beautiful initiative that we have done through a method called collective impact, in which we make sure that people, local organizations who have the expertise in education, water and sanitation, circular business models, work protection, and so on and so forth, they all work together towards a common agenda of creating equity for the waste speakers. That's it.
Whoa.
And that's inspired, and that's actually what is about inclusive circularity, right? You include other dimensions, not just circularity itself as a technical part of the project.
Exactly.
Could you maybe
Exactly.
summarize what is inclusive circularity for our listeners in a concise way?
Yes, definitely. So inclusive circularity is working towards circularity by including the people who are already doing circularity. So it's actually involving the people who already have the knowledge, the expertise, the culture of working with circularity. Normally is the informal sector. So inclusive circularity is making sure to include the informal sector in the solutions that the industry are creating for circularity. Is that understandable, or should I exemplify it a bit even more?
Oh, clear.
I think it's great. I wish
And
all people who work like in the leadership of foundations, like especially foundations that are so influential like yours, will have the level of deepness and awareness that you have, Fernanda.
We're doing
Now,
our best. Thank
we
you.
will have a better word.
Oh my God, that's so
Mm.
nice. Doing my best. But so it's like this. The way speakers then, they, by receiving, I'm gonna call it this holistic support, are then able to get more the basic needs covered, let's say, right? But they also have other sources of income. They don't have to rely, for example, only on the paper that they use to collect or the plastic. One beautiful thing that happened in this project in Bengaluru is that the waste speakers started then finding value in collecting textiles because they didn't before. There was no buyers for it. And then, with the movement of the textile industry towards circularity, they now are able to collect textiles, whether directly from the households or from other places where they collect waste. And they are able to create small, organizations. They are micro entrepreneurs, right? So they are able to then collect more garments, sort the garments by colors and material, send to bigger aggregation centers. And once these aggregation centers have a big volume of textiles that is, good enough, that is high enough for the recyclers to buy, they are able to ship those garments for the recyclers. So that is creating a whole new infrastructure that I was telling you about that is needed for getting the textiles from the consumers back to the industry. And this is only with textiles. Of course, that in this project called Samuhika Shakti, Collective Strength, there is also other materials that have been utilized more now as well. For example, metals that end up becoming earrings and necklaces, or even the plastic bottles, PET bottles, that are then sold to a social enterprise in Bengaluru called Hasrudala Innovations, who transforms the plastic into plastic chips, who are then sold to button manufacturers. So now there are buttons with recycled plastic collected by the waste pickers in Bengaluru that end up in garments being sold worldwide. And all this plastic can be traced back to the waste, throughout the whole value chain. So it's a very beautiful example of inclusive circularity. And just to be clear, this is not charity. These are business cases that happen between, the private sector organizations who are doing business with each other, but they are doing it in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
never thought about it. Oh,
I was going to ask about is there a business case? But you already answered it. So it's great to see that they don't need support from the foundation continuously, but rather just to get them started. And
Exactly.
really nice to see these results, and also the possibility to scale up to global level. And yeah, fantastic project, I would say. And
It's
do you
also,
see
can
that?
I just say, it's a really good, we've got an episode on circular business model. It's a perfect example of circular business model in action. It does work. It does exist.
I agree.
There's great examples worldwide, but that's the thing. They are still, let's say, small scale. What we need now is to show to the world there's very different ways of creating circularity, because there is no one size solution to fit everything. Solutions for circularity, for sustainability, for decarbonizing, they have to be localized. It depends on the context, depends on who is acting in that ecosystem. So inclusive circularity is definitely one that we believe is fair for people in the environment, and we promote it. But of course, it might take different shapes depending on where it's done, right?
Yeah. And do you see this sort of project or solution being duplicated in other regions or by other organizations? And I mean, it would be inspiring to see other organizations duplicating the same model in other countries.
What a great question. So what we see mostly in the networks where we operate is that usually organizations, they work in one side. For example, get more textiles to be sorted, or get waste speakers into education or into skilling for other professions. The beauty of this project is that it seeks to create systems change by creating the whole holistic support. We're not treating one challenge or another challenge over there. We're treating the whole thing here. So luckily now we see a big movement in the philanthropic world, or even in the private sector, into moving more towards systems change, because more and more people are understanding that a big transformation is needed, right, in different industries. So I would say that the project itself is not being copied exactly as it is per se, but the principles, which is what matter the most, is what is spreading around. And that's fantastic, because that's how we are going to create change.
Yeah, indeed. Great news.
Yeah. And you can't copy it. It's a good example. You can't copy and paste these. You can copy and paste the principles, but you can't copy and paste the projects, because it needs to be for the community, by the community, and every community is different.
You got the point. It has to be co-created by the community that it is intended to serve. Exactly. It's not an industry-led solution that is top-down. It has to be co-created with whoever is affected. So if we do a similar project in Bangladesh, for instance, we actually have a similar one in Bangladesh, Collective Impact Initiative in Bangladesh, to equip women garment workers for the future of work, for digitalization and automation in the factory floors that are actually risking them to lose their jobs. So we're supporting to equip them so they can, whether get placed in another industry or stay in the same industry, but get the skills that they need for, moving on with their careers. And of course, the solutions there are going to be different from the waste speakers, because we need to talk to the women garment workers, understand what their challenges are, and then create a whole collective to support them to come up with what they need to thrive in this, in what it is that they want, right, in their lives. So it definitely needs to be centered around equity.
Agreed.
I'm curious if, like, for any similar project to happen, do we need an external organization to come in with resources? Or is it possible, like for local communities, if they build some awareness and they're able to start that already, or co-start the project, or take the initiative, or especially if in developing countries, maybe in Asia or like Africa or South America?
I think that these kind of collaboratives can take different shapes and sizes. It definitely should be a community-led initiative. That's the best, right? In which the community is doing what they want to live their lives that they want. So it can be done that way as well. It can be something that they start talking to the ecosystem, to the networks that they have over here, and whether organically or systematically build this whole support system. It could happen in that way as well. We worked with an external organization who helped us to create these initiatives, but it can happen in many forms. As long as it seeks on having a common agenda, having a backbone organization to help to lead the initiative on the ground, having constant communication between the partners, and pretty much having a shared measurement system. These are, by the way, the principles of collective impact that I just listed here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome because also I was thinking, like this at the beginning of our history, I feel like we were focused on like small tribes all around the world. We didn't actually know each other that much. Then we started like globalization because we found ways to communicate between each other. But now again, it's like ups and downs. It's like different cycles that restarts. Like now we're 8 billion people with so much diversity and variety that now we need to go back again to customize and specialize the different initiatives, projects, approaches based on the diversity that we have created through globalization and standardization in the past. So it's just like cycles, like nature itself. So that I think that's what I agree. Like we try to standardize and globalize everything, and it works for a while, a bit, I think so in some way, but now it doesn't again. So now we need to rethink a bit. So it's very interesting.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's all about think globally and act locally, right?
Ooh, that's very good. Mm.
Love that, Saeed. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And yeah, I think that's more like collective actions and or like community actions. But when it comes to like individual level, what would be a concrete steps for our listeners to take to support inclusive circularity in their organizations or like workplace or like daily lives?
Great question. So at work, I would say that whatever it is that you're working with, new projects you are coming up with, always make sure that you are including all the possible perspectives that you can. Include the perspectives of the people who are affected by your project. Include the perspectives of the of the informal sector. Maybe the informal sector is already working with what you do. And if they are, talk to them, include them. They might already have the knowledge to create that, that solution. So try to go into the unusual suspects to gather the different perspectives. Do a mapping of who is already working with this that you're working to see how it is done differently in different places and how can you join hands and tap into each other's knowledge to create something better and more sustainable. That was for work, but for the local things that we can do in our everyday life is definitely to promote more sustainable companies and processes, support the informal workers as well. If you can support the people who work in the informal sector around you, the waste pickers that we have, even here in Sweden, people who are collecting cans and etc., support them as well. This is income for them. And, do what you can, be empathetic in general, right? But most importantly, remember to reduce, reuse, and recycle, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
And all the other R's that come along with it. We'll probably do a little waste hierarchy episode as well at some point.
Oh yeah, that would be a good topic.
I see Fernanda brings really like the power of informal sector, and that's very interesting. And with everything that is happening now, like we have discussed earlier about how linear the textile sector is. What keeps you going? How do you keep like the momentum And also, okay, with the informal sector as leverage, do you think that can change the game for like the circularity in sector in the textile sector, or we're not there yet?
You see, I believe that sustainability may sound right now like a good to have thing in business, but what I actually think is that more and more and more companies and governments are realizing that sustainability is not a good to have, but a must have. For us to continue thriving alongside planet Earth, sustainability is just it's already becoming regular business. And that's what keeps me going, is to see how more and more companies are valuing sustainability. And if you come and tell me that, current geopolitical scenarios might change that, I would say we have to take that very seriously. But I also see a lot of people getting even more committed to, their sustainability values and principles and goals. So that keeps me going, this push towards, doing more sustainable business. And I would say that the informal sector is definitely part of it, Said. We have to include the informal sector, but the inclusive circularity is actually one tool for getting there, for reaching a net zero world. But circularity is not the only one, right? There are many things that need to be done for us to reach a thriving world by in 75 years from now, by the end of the century, right? We need circularity. We need to talk about it. We definitely need to talk about reducing. We need to talk about different innovations for reducing carbon emissions, producing things without emitting so much carbon dioxide, but also capturing carbon dioxide. And we definitely need to talk about just transitions. So it's not only, Said, about the informal sector. It's about just transitions for everybody, for people and the planet.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that and the positive thinking about it. We're now about to close our episodes, but we still have some very interesting questions. And one actually from our previous guest, Tashina Alavi, who happened to be also sitting in Sweden from the Swedish University of Agriculture Science. And the question is, what's one belief you held 5 years ago that you have completely changed your mind about, and what led to that shift?
One belief that I had 5 years ago that I don't have anymore. Oh, yes, I have one. It's a bit embarrassing to say it, but I thought back then that climate action was something for activists only, for environmental engineers, for people working with the environment. And since my background is mostly on the social impact, I thought that it was not something for me. But now I realized that I was being very blindsided and stupid and thinking that we can talk about, the environment without talking about people, or about people without talking about the environment. We are intertwined. One is only going to thrive when the other one thrives. As long as we see a lot of inequalities or poverty or gender imbalance, we are not going to see a thriving world. So for us to thrive and, reach this low carbon economy in which, humanity will be doing the best that we can as well, we have to do, the social agenda together with the climate agenda and the environment agenda. We are all intertwined. And it's very big to have this realization, like, oh my God, the challenge is much bigger than I thought, but it's actually much more beautiful as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It gave us more hope. It gave us more hope that we can all help, actually, and it's not just some people there.
Exactly.
Yeah, like actions or.
Exactly.
This is a great, I think, answer. It would give an opportunity for our listeners to reflect about the question, and also, how things are interlinked. And now it's opportunity for you, Fernanda, to ask a question for our next guest speaker.
Close your eyes. How does life on Earth look like 75 years from now? That's my question to the next guest speaker. Or, are we even on Earth? I mean, Jeff Bezos just sent Katy Perry to space and together with other people. So who knows where we're going to be, right?
Yeah, that's true. That would be super interesting. I'm very excited to see like how the other person reacts.
No, but that's the question. Close your eyes and tell me, how does life on Earth look like by the end of the century?
Are we gonna even
Wow.
be here? Let's see. I hope so. Yeah, that would be
Maybe
cool.
some people would say I wouldn't imagine that.
Yeah, I won't be anymore. But maybe now with the technology and everything, maybe we will survive 120 years.
But that's actually part of our role here, both H&M Foundation, but also us here talking about this, is to imagine what if, to imagine different possible futures, to help to shape different futures by changing the narrative of what's needed. We have to talk about what's possible as well in order to be able to visualize it and go towards it, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a great question
start
also
with
for our
imagining.
listeners.
Me too.
I'd
Now
like to
I will even
see,
do that also.
I would see
Beautiful, same.
your answers in the comments.
We'll put the
Okay,
question in the show notes as well, and it's good reflection to look back on.
Yeah.
indeed. Any books or resources you would recommend, Fernanda, for our listeners?
Oh my God, yes. Everybody has to read Earth for All. Earth for All is a book that was released by the scientists from the Club of Rome, and it shows how we need to do a huge shift or turnaround, they call it, in the energy system, in the food system, and how these changes need to happen concomitantly together with the shifts in ending poverty, achieving gender equality, and reducing inequalities for anyone to be able to live in a prosperous world in the coming future. Beautiful, beautiful book, Earth for All.
And oh, definitely.
We'll put that
Beautiful.
in
We'll be sure to, yeah.
the
Earth for
show
all,
note
not
links.
all.
Earth for all.
Yes,
All.
like this. Earth for all, everybody.
Ah, mhm.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes, definitely we will put it as a
That's
recommendation.
inclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what would be your one or more actionable step that our listeners can go away and do it in their home or community or work that they can take away with them today after this episode?
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Oh, perfect. Always works.
So I might add to that. I think because it's a good, even just taking that first R, reduce, one action that they can take to then action that reducing is even. I'm a wastie. I like to get down and dirty in some waste, but even looking at what you're throwing away, and just kind of taking note of what you're throwing away. Maybe you just pick food waste. How much food? Maybe for 1 week, measure how much food you throw away. And then what can you do differently to reduce the amount of food that you're throwing away? Maybe it's by reducing how much you buy. So that's just an example.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, actually. I've been thinking about food waste for a while.
Okay, we'll take that with me as well. Okay, one final one. Where can our listeners find you, Fernanda? If they would like to reach out to you, get connected, learn more about the projects you're working on, or get inspired by the models you're implementing and so on.
Or if they just want to chat, I'm here for talking to everybody. Find me on LinkedIn. Fernanda Drumond, H&M Foundation. I think it's easy to find me.
Yeah. We'll
Please
put
reach
the
out.
link into the show note link, so it's going to be easier for our listeners.
Wonderful.
And with that, thank you so much, Fernanda, for joining us today. It was a pleasure and a very fantastic conversation. And yeah, thanks our listeners for joining us today. And see you next time.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that brings us to the end of episode 8 of Millennials Gone Circular. A massive thank you to Fernanda for joining us and sharing such a powerful perspective on inclusive circularity and telling us what it is. Just transitions also, and the often invisible contributions of the informal sector to the circular economy, something we don't often think about. Her stories from Brazil, Bengaluru, and around the globe gave us more of a grounded and inspiring look at what it means to actually center people around sustainability and not just sort of looking at the big picture and the systems. Fernanda reminded us that sustainability isn't a nice to have, it's actually an essential thing that we need. And to actually build a thriving, low carbon future, we need to have design with equity. We need to have community. We need to have dignity, all at the heart of the process. So before we go, Millennials Gone Circular is a production of The Waste Not Spot. The Waste Not Spot recognizes the many traditional landowners around the world and their continued stewardship of our planet. We pay our respects and offer our deepest gratitude. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love if you subscribed, shared it with a friend, or left us a review. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at The Waste Not Spot. And join our Millennials Gone Circular community to keep the conversation going. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next time.